You.
Meet you too. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to chat with you today.
Of course. I'm so excited.
Well, for all those who are tuning in, hi, I'm Anna with Broadway in Chicago. I'm super excited today. We are chatting with the one, the only, right here, Micaela from Dear Evan Hansen, who plays Alana. So if you all have any questions for her, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible. But we have so much to talk about. First of all, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you.
How has it been for you so far here?
I have loved it. I'm so glad to be in a big city again because we had just gotten off of an 8 week like 1 weekers. So to like sit down in a place is really pleasant because we haven't sat down somewhere in like I think like 2.5 months. So this is really nice to be like in a city again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we're just gonna jump to the tour then because I'm super curious about what you just said about, doing all of these 1 week engagements. And I think that's what people often forget about tours is that you're constantly moving. What do you do to take care of yourself, especially when you're doing 1 week stints or maybe even weekend stints in some locations?
Mm-hmm. So breaks to me are the most important. Like I will always allow myself rest, whether that be during the day before show. Like I know we're going to all of these amazing places, but sometimes you don't even have time within those like 6 hours of free time that you have to just like sit down because you want to do all these things. But especially when you're doing 1 weekers, your only day off is Monday and you're traveling that day too, which I'm glad that we have quick turnarounds, but sometimes you just need to sit. So every day before the show, I'll like go to the gym, I'll come home, make lunch, like kind of have time to myself. I'll pick like one day out of the week sort of to be like, I'm going to go shopping that day or I'm going to like see the city that day. But it's all about pacing because you'd think, oh, I have all the free time in the world. Like all I have to do is like go to the show at night. No, like it takes it out of you. Like if you try to do something every day, woo, because trust me, I tried when we first started and I was like, this is not sustainable. So taking breaks, allowing yourself breaks, not feeling bad or not productive. Yeah. I'll just allow. That's my number one.
Well, I want to jump back to, the very beginning of your story a little bit because I was reading up on your website and it says that you have been singing since you were 3 years old. Tell me, like, what really, catapulted this love for singing and acting?
So when I was growing up, so I grew up in a household with both my grandparents, my mom, and two of my tias. So it was all of us in one house. Everyone was sort of everyone were fans. All of my family, they're fans of art. Like my mom used to dance, like she was a dancer, and she was like a cheerleader in high school and college. But my grandparents always like appreciated theater and musicals, so I grew up watching movie musicals like West Side Story, Rocky Horror, Jesus Christ Superstar. We would watch that like every Easter. That's one of my grandpa's favorites. So I grew up watching those movie musicals, and of course, Disney princess movies. I was obsessed with them. My mom kind of got the gist that I really enjoyed singing when I would constantly replay The Little Mermaid, and I would like stack pillows on top of each other in my living room, and I would pretend to be Ariel. I'd be like, go back, just so I could sing it again and again and again. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, I got the opportunity to play Ariel in like a little kind of like kindergarten production. And my grandma used to always tell me the story of when she went to pick me up at school and she overheard like a little girl singing like The Little Mermaid. She didn't know that I was in this musical, and she asked the principal at the time that was there at the front of the school, she was like, who is that singing? That little girl sounds so good. And they go and check, they're like, that's your granddaughter. And she was like, what? And that was one of the first times that my grandma and my mom kind of realized that I was actually singing rather than like, little kids being like, oh, I like to sing. Like they're like, oh, she sings. That was one of my like earliest memories of singing, and that's kind of what got me into singing and dancing, because that's what I started with. I didn't start theater until I was 17 because I saw Seussical, production of Seussical, like at this high school, and then I moved to that high school, and then I was so green with acting, but I wanted to do it so badly. Something inclined me so badly. So I was a late bloomer with theater, but I've been singing and dancing since I was like 3 to 6. Yeah.
Now, is theater and acting something that you, since Seussical, wanted to pursue professionally, or was that maybe something else sparked more of your interest?
Yeah, it was such a great area for me. I think once I moved schools because I never moved schools in my life until I was 17. And I saw that production of student schools, something in me was like, I think I need to do that. But then once I moved, that was like middle of my sophomore year, I did my first musical, which was Year in Town, my junior year of high school. I played Pennywise. Crazy first role to do. And then my second musical ever, my senior year, was In the Heights. I played Nina. That was I think when it kind of clicked, because I was in choir for 6 years prior, and I was also just doing straight plays. And I realized that when I was just doing choir or just doing straight plays, I wasn't as happy. But when the musical season would always come around, I was like, it was euphoric. Like, something about it just, I loved it so much. And I think that's kind of when I started being like, do I want to do this in college? I knew nothing about the college process, which people who are going through right now can attest. Like, it is crazy. And my teachers in high school were like, we think you can do this. My family was always so supportive. They were like, we know that you can do this, so like you decide if you want to do it or not. But it kind of clicked senior year of high school when I was like, I think I will do this in college, which means professionally.
Absolutely. So you graduated from Texas State University with a BFA in musical theater, and you graduated, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2021?
Yes.
A recent grad. Congratulations. A recent, yes, we're almost in 2023. Geez. But
like, what's going on?
you know, thinking back to what you know now, what is something that you wish, like, freshman year you knew?
Freshman in college?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me think. I wish I knew that comparison kind of kills creativity, and that I should not make musical theater like my entire life, like for my life around musical theater. Not say like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this should be your career, your passion, but in order for it to keep fueling you, you need to focus on other things, because it'll kill you if you just, depend your validation, everything on this one thing. And I remember since I was so new, like, I put all of my worth, including self-worth, into this one thing, which went away soon because the head of my program was so good at being like, you need to focus on other hobbies, like other things, because then once you get into musical theater, once you start like going into rehearsal, then you'll be more passionate, and it'll always be something that you want more of rather than you resent. That's sort of what I would tell myself, and to take up more space and to ask more questions.
Absolutely. I love in your bio, you write, you dabble in short screenwriting, film directing, obsessing over Wes Anderson claymation movies, and freelance. Incredible. Let's talk. I really am curious about, screenwriting and film directing, because film and theater, different.
Yeah. Different animals. So I have been writing. I used to write chapter books when I was like 11, and I would write a lot of like fantasy novel sort of things. And I used to really, really love writing. Before I did musical theater, I thought I was either gonna like study forensic science or some sort of English, like writing concentrated, because I loved writing so much. And I kind of stopped, once theater takes over your life, like you kind of forget about your little hobbies. But when I had time in school, once, I started taking less hours, like my junior year, and we could dabble in more, I started getting back into film. And I've always loved film. And I also like Wes Anderson, which love him. Texas, go Texas. Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my favorite movies. That's what I mean, like with claymation, blah, blah, blah. So that sort of stuff has always inspired me to write. So I've dabbled like here and there in screenwriting. I used to do it a lot in college. I was in film club. And then I started like producing music videos for friends. Because a lot of my friends in my program, they wrote music. My friend Bella Coppola, she's in 6th right now. She had this new single. It was called Forbidden Fruit. And she was like, can you, and one of my friends in college who's still very like dear to my heart, Camille, she was like, can y'all like do a music video for me? And we were like, sure. And this was like middle of pandemic, so we had nothing to go off of because everyone was still quarantining. So I feel like, especially with those sort of things, like creativity kind of sprouts when you have a box or like limits. So that's when we kind of started getting into film more, was when I was like doing things for friends, projects for friends, but it was like sprinkled here and there, because whenever I would focus too much on it, it would kind of overwhelm me. So that's why I keep film and screenwriting as like a hobby, rather than a like, I'm gonna do this also, like same level as musical theater, because it's fun when it's just a hobby, but once it starts turning into a job, then it's not fun. But yeah, a lot of just like directing. I really love directing. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Well, hopefully we'll see your name on the big screen one day. Very excited. Well, okay, so with our few remaining minutes, let's talk about Dear Evan Hansen. You are Alana Beck, and for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about your relationship as a character in relation to the show? Who is Alana Beck?
So Alana Beck, she's one of the teens, one of Evan's classmates. She's a huge overachiever. She has a lot of bravado. That's the number one that I can give away about her. She has a huge kind of wall put up that you see as soon as you meet her. You see that she's not a lot, but she's exuberant. That's a good way to put it. Because you never want to see these characters in a negative light, because you have to remember all these characters are humans at their core, and they always have reasons behind their actions. So I feel like that's a good start as an introduction to her. But yeah, she's one of Evan's friends. You see her kind of help with like the big like Connor project, things like that, kickstarting like social media movements. Yeah. She's a huge overachiever, is what I'm gonna say. And she's very she's a lot. But she's so fun to play.
Well, you play her beautifully. You did such a fantastic job. And when it came to, your audition process for Dear Evan Hansen, was Dear Evan Hansen a show when it first came out that you were all about, or did Dear Evan Hansen enter your life maybe a little bit later?
It definitely was one of those musicals that inspired me to do musical theater more, because I love the pop sound. I love the realism of it. So when I was 17, I remember listening to the soundtrack over and over and over again. Whenever I'd like feel bad, I listened to the soundtrack. Whenever I just wanted to listen to some good music, I listened to the soundtrack. I was obsessed with it, to be honest. So it has always made its way like back into my life, but I never seen myself in it, which is always the case when like you're in a show. You're like, I don't think I'm like the right fit for that, but never limit yourself, by the way. So it's been like a reoccurring thing in my life. So it's so full circle moment, because I used to love this musical like literally 5 years ago. Yeah.
And what a gift now to be in it.
It's great. I'm so grateful every single day.
So we have a lot of folks asking, like, this is a bit of a heavy show. How do you take care of yourself?
Yes. So I think the number one thing for me with this show, I knew what show I was getting myself into. Like, even if you are not Evan or like, let's say Heidi or Cynthia, who carry a lot of the emotional baggage in the show, all of these characters are still hurting in some way, like all 8. So to be like around this sort of show every single day, 8 times a week, it's a lot. So, not distractions, but just like spending time calling your family. I go to the gym every day just to kind of release those endorphins. Doing things that make me happy. Like I said, like sometimes I'll write, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll focus on like maybe taking up a new hobby. A lot of people in our cast have started to like knit, which I kind of want to start. I'm just like things like that. Just kind of keeping yourself, protecting your peace a little bit, and like reminding yourself that this stuff is not real. It is not true every day. Like you're playing truth every day, but it's not true to your own personal life, because it can get really heavy. I'm not gonna say it's easy. It is hard to do a show like this 8 times a week, but there's little ways here and there to keep yourself sane. Yeah.
Well, we're nearing the end of our time, but one last question to wrap things up. What do you hope folks take away after coming to see your show?
Yes. I hope that the show kind of opens up a conversation about mental health, especially within families. I feel like, especially with something with this sort of subject matter, it's just important to sort of open up a dialogue about these sort of things, because you never know who's going through what. Because it's hard to speak up about this sort of thing that's like involved in this musical. So I hope people take away that, you know, everybody's human, everybody has their flaws, but we have to accept each other for them, and we have to help each other. You know, I feel like connection is the strongest thing that we have as humans, especially when it comes to, you know, mental health concerns, issues, anything that we may be struggling with. But like the thing that we do have is each other. And yeah, I feel like I really hope that people take that away from the show, is just more of an understanding of people, rather than, you know, maybe like if you don't know about it, if you've never been through it, not shutting it down, but instead having an open heart to it.
Absolutely. Micaela, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people keep up with you and your journey? What are your
Yes,
handles?
you can follow me on Instagram. It's Micaela J Lamas. I also have Twitter, which is Mickey Lamas, Mikkie. I'm also on Facebook, just my name. And my website, I have like a little contact sort of page on my website. If you ever want to ask me like a personal question, like just select like personal inquiry, and it sends it to my email. Like if you ever want to send me an email too, and I'll try my best to like get back to you. But the best way to reach me is definitely Instagram. Yeah.
Ah, so good. Well, for all who are tuning in, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Come see Dear Evan Hansen. Why not? It's a wonderful show. Micaela does a wonderful, wonderful job in it. You don't want to miss her and the rest of the wonderful company. It's here in Chicago until December 31st only. You don't want to miss it. And if you miss it here, or maybe you're in another part of the country, they're on tour. They're going around everywhere. So
That's
get your
bye.
tickets. It's BroadwayInChicago.com. If you're not in Chicago, DearEvanHansen.com to find where it's coming near you. Thank you so much for all who are tuning in. Micaela, have a wonderful rest of your day, and have a great rest of your time in Chicago.
Thank you. I'm here. Thank you so much for all of this.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Happy holidays.